Welcome to Sorry You Went Viral, where we talk about the stories that everyone's sharing online and on WhatsApp and what it's really like to go viral. I'm Tim.
And I'm Hannah. And before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this week's podcast, we have to update all of you on a story from the last show we did, which was all about Monkeygate. You'll remember the little boy, Hal, who had lost his monkey, his beloved stuffed toy, on a flight to New York. And a big appeal went out on Twitter through his mum's friend, Jill, who we spoke to last week, an appeal to find Monkey or to replace Monkey, heaven forbid. And anyway, Tim, we've got an update on that.
Yes, so Jill, who you spoke to, has updated us on the story she posted on Twitter, I think it was on Friday, saying a lovely picture of Hal, the boy, the 9-year-old boy who we discussed last week. He's been, you say reunited, but as Jill told us, United, yes. As Jill told us, a lovely gesture from a man who had a exact replica of that teddy that was out of stock, that had now he'd sent to Jill, and as you can see there, if you're watching on the video, he's been reunited with the monkey. She says the monkey got back from his New York adventure, been up the Empire State Building apparently, and it says the owner is none the wiser.
Yeah, and it's just one of those lovely stories, isn't it, that we can do a full circle on and say, actually, social media sometimes is a force for good, which is nice to see and nice to hear about on a podcast like this as well.
Indeed, and just another quick thing from Jill. You may remember that she talked about how Hal had got a postcard from Monkey during his adventure. Hal had written a postcard to Jill, which she received a few days ago, saying thank you so much for looking out for Monkey in New York, and talking about it. Thanks again, love, Hal.
Oh, godmother of the year. Well done. Next up on the show, we're going to talk about what went viral over the last week. And the first story we're going to look at is this a baseball star in the US whose wife and 2 young children were flying from somewhere to somewhere, and the kids, kind of as they do, made a mess, and there was popcorn everywhere, and you'll be able to see, I think, maybe on some of the images you're putting up now.
Yeah.
And what happened was that the flight attendant apparently told his pregnant wife to clean up after her children and clear up the mess. And this baseball star, his name is Anthony Bass.
Yeah.
He plays for Toronto Blue Jays. I actually don't know what that means, but there we go. Well done, Anthony Bass. He got onto Twitter and tweeted out to his presumably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, "Isn't this disgraceful? I can't believe that a flight attendant at United just made my 22-week pregnant wife traveling with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old get on her hands and knees to pick up the popcorn mess by my youngest daughter. Are you kidding me? Seen 67 million times." And it's really divided opinion. He's had quite a lot of a backlash. So on the one hand, you kind of go, yeah, awful. Don't make a pregnant woman clean up mess. But also on the other hand, you go, it's not a flight attendant's job to do that. And lots of people are weighing in saying, that's just parenting, love. Get on with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's been criticised by parents, other airline workers, people who work in the industry, also some baseball fans chucking in a couple of jabs about his pitching rates this season. But yeah, you're right. It's interesting. He's actually only got about 30,000 followers on Twitter. But as you said, 67 million times, because this is the kind of story we've seen it so many times. You know, especially when it comes to customer service, in the heat of the moment, you want to vent your anger, and understandably, he would be emotionally charged by this. But you know, did he do the best thing by tweeting it?
Yeah, and he said as well that United are going to sort of deal with this matter internally, I think, or on the quiet. And you wonder whether actually, if he'd just done this quietly himself, he would have just got exactly the same result, and it all would have been a lot more savoury. The other interesting bit about this story, though, is that his sister-in-law, so his wife's sister, who's a country music singer,
Yes.
and presumably has a considerable following herself online. She weighed into it as well, saying, this is my poor sister is on her hands and knees crying in the aisle, completely humiliated and exhausted. We obviously don't have the context. We don't know from the flight attendant's perspective whether she was bullying and harassing a pregnant woman, in which case that would be awful, and that's a totally different thing. But if she was just saying clean up the popcorn after your kids, again, just a different thing. But people can use the power of social media and the weight of, if they've got family members who have all these followers as well, to really try and kind of like hammer home their point or their position. To what end here? I think he's probably just embarrassed himself a bit, and probably embarrassed his wife.
Indeed. As you said, I think cooler heads have now prevailed, and Anthony did post later on a picture of his daughter, which you can see on the screen here, enjoying some popcorn. So I think things have calmed down and moved on, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Next up on what went viral, Joe Wicks. Now, I'm sure Hannah, like you, and like me, you doing Joe Wicks in bouncing up and down in your living room during lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joe Wicks was just one of those sort of like heroes, wasn't he? Who's the saviour who got us all through and got us moving through the pandemic. And he has obviously built up this huge reputation and huge following, and presumably huge wealth in his business from being the guy next door, the guy who is thoroughly relatable and down to earth. And what's happened in this story is that, as far as I understand it, he splits his time between the UK and the US. So he's out in the States at the moment, and he posted a picture on Instagram or several pictures actually, of his wife, who is a model, mum of 3, and looking very, very slim and fit. And she's there in a gym, and he was praising her, saying, "Isn't it great that she looks like this? I'm so proud of her for working so hard on her fitness. She's never been stronger, and doing all of this whilst our youngest, who's only 6 months old, doesn't sleep as well." So it's amazing. And the response has been really, really split again. Some people saying that's amazing, how kind of like motivational, that yes, everyone can get out there and should get out there and do it and feel their best selves. But a lot of other people saying this is enormously triggering. People, the majority of people who are his followers, don't have the same resources available to them, whether that's in financial childcare support or having a massive gym in your backyard or just a whole host of things, and that it was completely out of touch. Plus she is a model, she's a very beautiful woman, and I think he says in his message, maybe we can bring it up now, but I think he says about genetics clearly play a part, but it's like, well, but what about all the other things that clearly play a part in this as well? Because there'll be a lot of women who clearly are considering the response upset, and he might lose a bit of a following as a result of it, because people are feeling like this isn't the guy next door, my mate, anymore. This is someone who's got an unattainable lifestyle that they're shoving in my face. Don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think what was interesting for me, again, this is like the previous post, could be quite triggering. But the reply that got about 4,000 likes was from a human mum who is very constructive in her response. So she says, Rosie, looks amazing. It would be helpful though to acknowledge the time, money and resources to be able to do this. An awful lot of parents aren't in the same position, and I thought it was really nice, and again something which we don't often see, but more of a considered response than an upset one. Although some do say, so damaging, unhelpful for so many mums. All mum's bodies should be celebrated. And I think, again, speaking as dad, I could be in the gym right now, but I've taken the time out, sacrificed my body to come and talk to you.
Well, on behalf of your wife and women of the world, thank you, Tim.
Indeed. Well, let's not talk about my belly anymore on this show. But yeah, it is. No, it's a shame. It's for all parents have that struggles, and I think it can be really hard. And it's not the only post that's caused a bit of controversy from Joe this week.
Yeah, so there's another one, his youngest child, who, as I mentioned before, was only sort of, I think, 6 months old or something like that. Again, they're out in the States, and there's this image that, I think it's quite funny, but you can see her, I think it's a little girl, her there, who's sort of hanging off some monkey bars. And I mean, one can only assume that she was there for a split second, and he's obviously right there next to her. And it was just one of those candid camera moments, and it's just quite funny. But a lot of people kind of like saying, "Oh, this is outrageous parenting," and again the backlash. And it's a fine line that he has to tread. Social media and is clearly his avenue, his route of communication to reach his followers and to continue to build his business. And I just wonder whether he might take a sort of just reflect on this and go, okay, I need to kind of like change up the content that I'm putting in there. He always talks about his family. He always has talked about his family, but I don't know, perhaps altering the tone a little bit. And I also don't know whether Rosie, his wife, has sort of social channels herself, and whether she would kind of like want to kind of either defend him for praising her or speak out about her body or her fitness regime or whatever. It would just be quite interesting, I suppose, to hear from the other side. So we'll see. The Wicks family are coming in for a bit of stick at the moment.
Indeed. Next up, allotment vandalism. Now, you may have seen this story across the media, TV, online, on social this week. Horrible story of a woman called Carly from Harlow, my old stomping ground, who transformed her garden into an allotment to basically provide food, organic fruit and vegetables for those on benefits, those on just a state pension, doing tremendous things. But she posted a video on TikTok showing very, very, very upset, showing that her allotment had been targeted apparently by vandals, and salt had been thrown onto the soil, which apparently kills the onions, the onion seeds that she had planted. Let's just show you a little clip of what happened.
I'm absolutely heartbroken. Someone's jumped over in the night and put salt all over the land. That means everything I've planted won't grow, and I can't replant on it because it won't grow. So all the hours and hours and hours of work that we've put in is now dead. And they've done it everywhere.
As you can see, very upset. But what's been fantastic to see is how the nation has rallied behind her to help support her. Her GoFundMe account, which I think she had set up previously to raise money for her cause, has got now over £250,000 from influencers like Gary Lineker and Dragon's Den stars Stephen Bartlett. And it's been fantastic to see. And seeing also then the community rallying round. You know, that video really kind of galvanized the community. All sorts of people have come together to help replace that soil, which you can see here on the screen if you're watching on video, and also then replanting the crops. And she's now posted another video. She did reveal that she actually doesn't know how to use the internet, so it must be her friend or one of her children. But it's it's been lovely to see.
Yeah, but well done her.
Now, next up, I don't know about you, Hannah, but I admit I'm not really a Drake or Weekend kind of guy. I'm more of a Magic and Heart 90s, to be honest.
We're like kindred spirits, yeah.
But
I know who they are. That's a good start.
Indeed. But what was fascinating this week is this creator called Ghostwriter has created a song using artificial intelligence to basically clone the voices of Drake and The Weeknd, and create this own song that sounds absolutely like them.
I came in with my ex like Selena, the flex, bumping Justin Bieber, the fever and left. She know what she need, or she blessed, giving my best. Yeah, I got my heart on my sleeve with a knife in my back. What's with that? 21, I love him, they're my brother, that's my stack. Metro made the beat, so you know that it's gon' slap.
Yeah, it's completely terrifying. And presumably, I mean, how on earth do you copyright something that you haven't done yet, or even dreamt up yet, or created. So, legally, this is a complete minefield, as is so many things related to AI and machine learning these days. But it does beg the question then, what else can AI do? I mean, in terms of like bringing back voices from the dead, we might have new Elvis tracks or Beatles numbers, or who knows, there might be some sort of Beethoven symphony in the works as well. It's quite extraordinary to think what AI, what artificial intelligence can do compared to us mere mortals, and really kind of got a lot of legal bods in a bit of a tiz with this one.
Next, you may know of a guy, Hannah, very famous in Merseyside, called Pete Price.
I hadn't actually heard of Pete before. This is he's an older gentleman, but I think he's in his sort of mid-70s something, and very kind of well known, as you say, within Merseyside and Liverpool on the radio. And he went to Aintree for the Grand National, and let's just have maybe you can give a bit of a background on exactly what happened, and we can post some of the video, and you'll explain why it's only some of it.
So before we play the recording, just to explain, he's kind of gone viral in Merseyside. He's now infamous for some reason, not entirely sure why. People go up to him and post on social media at him, calling him a lizard. Now, of all the things to call someone, but hey, and he generally has embraced it. But as you said, he was at Aintree for the Grand National, private event, and someone came up to him and did something, we don't know what, but has obviously triggered him and provoked this quite emotional response.
Can you send that to me?
Got your video on it? Hey,
So look, as you can hear, that's he's clearly very upset there, and we've seen this a lot with celebrities over the years. It's never those who necessarily created the video or filmed it or antagonized someone. It's always the celebrity who then reacts and then is punished in a way for it. And he's gone to Twitter to apologize. He posted this statement, which you can see on your screen if you're watching on a video feed, apologizing, for the use of language, saying that he's beyond hurt, upset and angry, that his clear distress has been released as a source of amusement.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because as you say, he was actually at a public event. He was at the Grand National at Aintree, but in a private capacity. He wasn't there, performing a role. And so it's a tough line to walk for people who are in the public eye. I don't know how active he is on Twitter as a general rule anyway, but he clearly didn't know that he was being filmed, and certainly didn't know that this was then going to be posted and used against him as well. So he's used social media as his means of kind of like responding and apologizing. But very sorry for him that he did go viral in this manner, because clearly it's not the portrayal of himself that he would want to show off. And what do you do in the future? It's kind of, do you go to these public events where if you know that you're going to be the butt of some jokes or potentially targeted in some way, do you avoid going? I mean, that's no way to live, and anyone in the public eye shouldn't have to really make those choices. And as I said as well, he's also in his late 70s, so I'm very uncomfortable about anyone being targeted at any age, but especially when they're potentially a little bit more vulnerable. So I feel very sorry for him. Next up, we're going to talk about what it's like to go viral. And one story that has been really rocking us all over the last week or so is the young lad Ralph Yarl, 16-year-old teenager in the US, is actually in the state of Missouri, who was shot on a doorstep simply because he'd stepped on the wrong doorstep and had rung the wrong doorbell. Now, we should say that he is a black teenager, and he has miraculously survived. And as far as we know, he is recovering well at home with his family. But there is a racial, of course, element to this, largely because the man who shot him is a white elderly man. And there's a whole legal kind of thing going on now because he has been arrested, and there'll be a whole case and trial, no doubt. But the reason that we're talking about this on this show is because, shocking as it is, it wouldn't necessarily have got the prominence in the media or around the world as it as it has if it weren't for young Ralph's aunt. So Tim, tell us a little bit more about her.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Horrendous story, but what has really kind of galvanized people on social media, and you've seen celebrities such as Justin Timberlake, who doesn't often use social media, post about this story, is his the boy's aunt, Dr. Faith Spoonmore, who is on Instagram if you want to check her out at A Healthy Mixture. And she posts on her bio, she says she's a digital content creator, and what she's done is basically created videos and posted updates of her campaign for justice. Let's just show you one of those videos.
His name is Ralph Yarl. On April 13, Ralph was on his way to pick up his younger siblings from a friend's house. He accidentally went to the wrong address. He parked in the driveway, went up to the door, and rang the doorbell. The man inside opened up the door and shot him in the head through the glass door.
I've gotten a lot of DMs from people wondering how they can help. The only help that I need and that my family needs right now is to get attention on this situation. I want to get as much light shine on this situation as we can possibly get.
So what's fascinating here is how it's really, this video has been shared, and she hasn't done any media herself. She's left it to Ralph's parents, but her updates on social media, both the initial that little video, but also little updates talking about her campaign for justice, has really galvanized people, predominantly on Instagram, but then those videos have been shared elsewhere on Twitter and TikTok. She set up a GoFundMe page, and that's now at $3 million, which is absolutely extraordinary. And she's been updating people on his condition on that page as well.
It's interesting because you've been saying about she hasn't done any media, she hasn't done any mainstream media. Obviously, that's what we've on the news and we've seen his family, his parents and the like. But she has made a huge impact. It shows that again the power of digital platforms to create reach, and presumably she already had certainly an understanding of digital content, how to get things out there, and maybe a following herself. But it's amazing what you can do in terms of if it's a serious issue like a quest for justice, in terms of gaining more support and galvanizing action, like making people actually do something about this in terms of Black Lives Matter and whatever the direct campaign will be for Ralph. So yeah, again, huge kudos to her and well done.
Now, finally on the show, time for our moment of mindfulness. And this has provided such joy across the internet this week. You may have heard of the song. It's called If I Were a Fish. This is from a content creator, musician called Karuk, I think I pronounced that correctly, who said she was having a very emotional day, feeling insecure and out of place, and she cried to her girlfriend, and then they decided to write a song about it, and they did it in 10 minutes. What she said is remembering the joy in being different. Let's have a little listen.
If I were a fish and you caught me, you'd say, look at that fish, shimmering in the sun. Such a rare one, can't believe that you caught one. If I were a fish and you caught me, you'd say, look at that fish, heaviest in the sea. You'd win first prize if you caught me. Why is everybody on the internet so mean? Why is everybody so afraid of what they've never seen?
I mean, it's just joy in a song, isn't it? And, even if you're only listening sort of 10, 15 seconds of it, as soon as I heard it, I was like, this is so catchy. It's so upbeat. I love it so much. You felt like you've heard it before, which is always like the best kind of like the best pop songs and catchiest songs are always the ones that you feel like, I'm sure I've heard that before somewhere. And there's a method in that. It will probably be AI generated next we'll hear or something anyway, but that's a whole other thing. I thought it was absolutely lovely, and it spawned as a result loads of people to then try and sort of duet it and copy it as well. And we know that TikTok's obviously was initially all about music and dance and things like that, so they've chosen that platform to put this out there, and it's got a really nice meaning behind it as well. She was saying she was feeling really low, and this is just upbeat and happy, and it made her feel good and celebrating being different. And I just thought, well, if that's different, then I want in. That's it's just gorgeous. I've been singing it ever since. I won't bore you with it now.
I think we're going to run out of time, unfortunately, for that. But as you said, it's brilliant. It's got, last time I looked, over 9.5 million views for the original video. And what you're right, TikTok itself has helped really fuel this by people duetting it, which you can't really do on any other platform, has helped it popularize it. And then they have shared the woman has then shared duetting other people's duets of the videos, and that's being released as a single, which is fantastic. And
it is.
And lastly,
great.
just to tie a bow on things, you did talk about AI. There is a video version of someone's done an AI version of the song with Ariana Grande singing it as well.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, there we go. I wasn't completely off the mark. So I'm presumably Ariana won't mind too much, even though it's actually not her in real life doing it, but because it's all for a good cause and it's a catchy song, so I guess it boosts her profile as well.
And that's it for this week's show. Thanks very much for listening or watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like, if you're on YouTube or on podcast, please do like and or subscribe. It really makes a difference to us. And again, you can catch us on any of the main social accounts and social profiles. Just look for us on Sorry You Went Viral. We'll be back next week with another show, but thanks again and speak to you soon.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
If I were a fish and you caught me, you'd say, look at that fish shimmering in the sun, such a rare one, can't believe that you caught one. If I were a fish and you caught me, you'd say, look at that fish, heaviest in the sea. You'd win first prize if you caught me. Why is everybody on the internet so mean? Why is everybody so afraid of what they've never seen? If I was scrolling through and I saw me flopping around and singing my song, I'd say, damn, they're cute and sing along.